we have Phil Hawes versus Brunno Ferreira. Phil Hawes, his nickname is No Hype. It's a pretty good nickname, not bad. He's 12-5. He is 2-3 in his last five. He's coming off of that KO loss against Ikram Aliskerov, and that was pretty interesting to watch. He's 35. He's facing against Brunno Ferreira, the Hulk, 10-1. He is 4-1 in his last five. 31 years old, so he will be the younger fighter, but Phil Hawes will have the height and reach advantage there. Right now, the odds for this fight, Brunno Ferreira, minus 125. He opened up at a minus 175, actually, and was bet to a plus 130. So people actually took the dog odds on Phil Hawes right away. However, he has since been bet back to minus 125. So it's close to kind of a pick 'em fight for this fight right now. What do you think about this fight between Phil Hawes and Brunno Ferreira? I'm intrigued to kind of understand your breakdown here.
I am kind of torn on this fight here because I think the most skilled fighter on this card is Phil Hawes. But the sad part is the fighter with the worst durability on this card is Mr. No Hype, who might change his name to Mr. No Chin. So, man, okay. His last few losses were against high quality fighters, and he was frustrating Ikram and Dolidids, and he was dominating Chris Curtis. But there's a ticking time clock on when his chin just evaporates, even when he's winning those fights. So I really wanted to bet on Phil Hawes here, but you just can't trust the chin. So I'm probably just gonna stay away from this fight. But Phil Hawes looks great with that offensive pressure,
Mhm.
but he needs the chin to hold up for that, or just turn down the pressure and just use more wrestling. But he likes to just continue to have that pressure and just kind of basically just dance on his opponents and just touch him up. And he looks dominating at times and looks really good, but yeah, his downfall is that chin of his that hasn't been able to hold up in that type of offensive pressure. And I think the only way that he could win this is if he incorporates wrestling a lot more and turn down the pressure a bit. But I don't think that we'll see that happening. I think we'll see the same phenomenal offensive pressure Phil Haas. And as for Brunno Ferreira, man, UFC is not giving Phil Haas any favors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Phil Haas will just lap a guy who grapples or is a submission artist, or give him a point fighter who has been looking dominant. But nope, UFC said, "Hey, we'll just throw in a one punch finisher in front of you." So no favors for Phil Haas here. He facing Brunno, who has one punch power. He is going to be shorter and has a length disadvantage, but he is explosive. He likes to have that kind of switch stance here, so maybe give Phil Haas some trouble a little bit. But the way I see this, I think early on, I'm just gonna watch, and in round one, we could literally see a Phil Haas clinic in round one. He's just dominating Ferreira, right? Touching him up. Ferreira can't really show any offense. And man, I think I'm considering maybe live betting this. If this goes past round one, Phil Haas looks good. Bruno's at underdog odds. I might put some on Brunno before round two starts, just for the imminent Phil Hawes chin to evaporate. But otherwise, I'm not gonna play this fight. And yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, Phil Hawes' classic definition of a glass cannon fighter, all the skills in the world to be elite in the UFC, especially at the middleweight division. Good kickboxer, has a good wrestling skill set and pedigree as well. I really like his powerful hands. He's really quick in his movement, fluid in his attacks. He can piece people up in combos as well. It's just that he just has no chin left, I think. He's been KO'd in his last three losses. He did have a KO win in between versus Duran win, but I mean that's not exactly a UFC caliber fighter in my opinion. He also has a top tier wrestler. I mean, he's good takedown defense. I don't think he's ever been taken down yet in the UFC. 100% takedown defense. Able to shoot double legs, single legs. He has a 36% takedown accuracy. Averages about 2.28 takedowns per 15 minutes. Utilizes top control pretty well and can ground and pound his opponents on top as well. I think he's a high level athlete. I mean, he just does not have the best chin nor the best gas tank. He gets more slow and timid the later the fight goes on. And the guy against a guy like Brunno Ferreira, I mean, I think that Bruno is actually a good striker at middleweight. However, he does have chin issues himself. I mean, we saw that in the last fight, right? And that kind of caught me off guard because I thought that he was going to come in and beat that guy. I can't pronounce his name, but he's like this big 6'5" kind of middleweight, and he just got KO'd. So, he Bruno has huge power in his hands as well. He can one shot KO people like he did against RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez. I think that Bruno can move in and out in movement in different directions as well. He's able to use feints and can fight out of southpaw, orthodox. I think he's pretty well rounded in terms of that. Grappling wise, I think it's decent, but obviously not his bread and butter. This guy's looking to KO people. He does have the ability to unleash devastating ground and pound once on top, though. The way I see this fight going is that, given both their skill sets, how they're going to match up, I think that Phil Hawes is going to do really well actually in the beginning. I think that he's going to be piecing up Bruno with nice 1-2s, some kicks as well. However, I just think that eventually Bruno will catch him with a clean power shot, and he's going to KO him like he did against RoboCop. And I think it's going to play out similar to how Phil Hawes got KO'd by Ikram, because I do remember that. I was on the Ikram side of that fight, but I do remember that Ikram was having trouble with Phil Hawes. I mean, it was a tough fight for as long as it lasted. And then he just caught a power shot to the chin and it was all she wrote. So pick here is going to be Bruno by KO. However, I can't trust him because I think that Bruno's chinny himself. So I'm just going to stay away from, backing either fighter. The play that I actually like is the under 1.5 rounds. It's minus 225 right now on Bet Online, and I think it could be a decent play, a potential parlay piece. So I think both of these guys are prone to self-destruct, and I think the under could be a good play. The only way that this under doesn't kind of play out is that if, I think Phil Hawes incorporates more of a wrestling kind of base game plan and just doesn't get pieced up. So that could be something that I'll take to account, but I think that both of these guys are probably going to go for the finish, and we'll see what happens there.